in almost every sector. The breadth of our growth story is quite multidimensional. It's also reflective of the changing nature of our growth. Services powers on, contributing very large amount to the economy. The kind of goods we are manufacturing are very different from what it was 10 or 15 years ago. So we never had electronic manufacturing or white goods or air conditioners or mobiles. We were low in terms of our manufacturing of chemicals and petrochemicals until a couple of decades ago. We are getting into newer and newer areas which at one time were not even in the realm of possibility when we planned our manufacturing journey. Our competitiveness is also getting readjusted vis-a-vis other countries or firms operating in other geographies. So really, the theory of competitive advantage is also playing out gradually and is bound to play out. There are many products which will not be made in India as we move up the value chain. And that's something which I think is well established worldwide. Gradually, you will have specialization. You will have economies of scale. You will have the advantage of skilled or well-trained manpower or talent playing up on the nature of manufacturing. We will see how the global dynamics shift. So there may be a product we are very good at today, but maybe 10 years later, somebody else may do a better job than India in a particular field. And we, on the contrary, may diversify to something else. And it is those nimble economies, nimble companies within such economies, which will survive to tell another story or live for another day. Those who remain in their cocoon of low competition, protected economies, will gradually start fading out. And therefore, the need of the hour is that we focus on innovation. We focus on understanding where the chinks in our armor are. There will be many products where we will need to be self-sufficient. We will need to have the supply chain in our own control, particularly after the way we have seen the weaponization of trade in recent times. It's important, at the cost of repetition, and I will have to repeat it many times, I think, because I still don't see that sense of urgency where people are assessing their supply chains to see where the concentration of a geography or a supplier can hurt their long-term survival. And such areas of concern, if we can identify them quickly, if we can plug them quickly, will be essential in our long-term strategies, both to survive and then to grow. This afternoon I was talking to somebody and remembering that 25 years ago, there was a watch company which used to be the primary watch manufacturer in India. You know the company I'm referring to. They were in dire strait because of dumping at predatory prices from a neighboring country. But since they did not get any protection in India, and they were not accepted by the people of India for their higher cost, we've landed up in a situation for almost 10 years until Titan came into prominence, where we had no watch manufacturing in India. That same company went to the neighboring country and started manufacturing and supplying to India. This afternoon in Parliament, a colleague and I were talking about it. Now maybe at that point of time it was only watches. We could still live with it. But imagine if in your supply chain, a particular product is not permitted to be exported or not available at any point of time for your use. It could cripple an entire operation, an entire business model would be at the mercy of your source of supply, country or company. And therefore we will have to have a twin-edged approach. One, focusing on where we have a comparative advantage over the others, and two, where we need to decouple and be strategically autonomous and have end-to-end control on our supply chains. If both of these are not simultaneously protected, and that brings me to the point an earlier speaker spoke, I think, I don't know, Sethuraman said it, that I often say that unless Indian industry supports each other, we cannot expect somebody from outside to come and help us through our growth journey or through our journey to expand manufacturing at 12.5%, to take the share of manufacturing up to 25%. And mind you, as manufacturing grows, services will simultaneously also grow faster. And then to maintain that 25% share, probably manufacturing will have to look at a 13.5%, which is all very good, because this is what spurs the economy and then gives us extraordinary results in terms of overall macro growth in the country. But all of this will test how nimble we are, how conscious we are of our responsibilities to other stakeholders, of our responsibilities to our own business in terms of safe and secure supply chains, how we manage efficiency levels, how we manage innovation, R&D to remain contemporary, to remain relevant, how we are able to face competition. You can't live in a cocoon in today's day and age. We will have to integrate with the rest of the world. We will have to open the doors in other markets, unlock doors in other markets. But as we wish to do that, we will have to open some doors in our own market. It will be a two-way win-win solution that everybody will be persevering for. I mean, take a simple example. Somebody spoke of electronics. No country in the world has a greater than 35% share in the manufacture of a high-quality electronic product, say the mobile phone. The maximum in any one geography is 35%. Otherwise, it's an aggregation of different products to make the final assembled output. Now that means the interdependencies is going to grow. If our manufacturing of mobile phones or electronic goods or white goods in India grows, our import on those products will also simultaneously grow, or the components required for those for that product. Possibly as we expand also the machineries required for that product. We cannot fight shy of that, and we'll have to accept that the most efficient and well-run businesses will obviously get an edge in the future. And at that point of time, if we are able to handle our land, labor, logistics, electricity, water better, smarter, as was said by some erstwhile speakers, we can emerge winners. Our land is something on which we ourselves are working extensively to provide more and more industrial parks, 12 already on the road, as in some under construction, some already sold out. 100 more industrial parks we are proposing to come up with very soon in partnership with the states to have distributed manufacturing across the world, country. And mind you, the statistics that were shown just now don't represent the full picture. So if you take those top 5 states, I think you mentioned Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, I don't know, Karnataka possibly, Karnataka. Those 5, you said, contribute 54% to manufacturing. Well, they also contribute 50% to our population. So in fact, the concentration is not as stark as I thought it would be. Normally the 80-20 rule prevails in such things. Things are changing now. For example, UP was never in the manufacturing horizon of anybody until 2017. But see how quickly it has changed post-2017. Odisha was never considered a big manufacturing destination. But with the kind of mineral wealth coming out there now, more and more investment is veering itself towards Odisha. So things are changing. Bihar, I was campaigning in Bihar, and despite all the misinformation that was sought to be projected and presented before the election, I think the results speak for themselves. Certainly the government must have been doing something right to get such a historic mandate. Once more, I mean, Mr. Nitish Kumar getting sworn in for the 10th time. And the BJP winning 90% of the seats they contested. It's not easy and with the pro-incumbency factor rather than an anti-incumbency. It clearly shows that there is something going out. And I remember, while addressing a similar audience in Bihar before the election, I ventured to suggest that today, I don't see the kind of migration from UP and Bihar as we used to see earlier. We have people from UP, Bihar all over the country, but most of them are settled over there, settled for generations now. I have a lot of people in North Mumbai, which I represent, from UP, Bihar, Odisha, other states, South, Tamil Nadu. Does that mean Andhra? Does that Andhra and Telangana? Does that mean Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana are not progressing? And by the way, in a room full of people nowadays, I very often ask, how many of you are from Bihar? I barely get 1 or 2 hands standing up. Because more and more people are getting opportunities in their own state nowadays. Industry is moving there. Startups and entrepreneurs are coming up. New ideas are actually taken to fruition, even in these remote geographies. Of course, possibly the one state that still needs some corrective action, where we don't find much happening. I don't know why Chandrajit Banerjee is already laughing. But my request to everybody is that let us collectively come up with more and more suggestions. I could sense that there were a lot of underlying ideas that you also wanted to share in the presentations that I saw. We are hungry for ideas. We are looking for your suggestions. What more can we do to make life easier for manufacturing? How we can make our policies, processes, procedures simpler to implement, what we can do to decriminalize laws or remove some obsolete laws, labor reform, incidentally, the 4 labor codes. We have notified them, but before we notified them also, we've been in active consultation with states, and 23 states have, by and large, already introduced the corresponding rules or the framework to implement these labor codes within their local laws and local policies. So it's been if I can say, a labor of love that finally ended with these 4 codes being notified. It's been work in process for a long time, quietly, And it's good for the workmen more than anybody else. It'll formalize more employment. It'll improve minimum wages. It'll ensure social security for the workmen. It's actually a set of 4 codes which are completely in favor of the workmen's future, their social security, their families' security, giving them a better future, taking care of their health, taking care of occupational hazards, ensuring fair play for the workmen. And that is always going to be good for businesses, for industry. I mean, you will think which are the most successful groups or companies in the country. It is all, you will always find those who have good HR practices are success stories, are doing well in manufacturing, are doing well in their chosen field of operation. Companies with bad labor policies or bad HR policies never succeed. And therefore, I'm very clear that whether it is the GST reforms, whether it's our ease of doing business efforts, whether it's the labor codes being introduced, whether it's the income tax rate rationalization that we've seen over the last few years, collectively, all of these measures provide a base on which India's manufacturing can grow very fast. We all need to work as a team. We all need to work with ideas, with the intention to see how we can maximize newness, maximize smarter way of governance, how we can work together to support the MSME sector. I've often said that a small experiment, if everybody in this room starts, forget anybody outside the room also, it can become a huge and impactful. The huge almost sounds like somebody else. It can really be, I didn't say beautiful, it can really be a huge and very impactful measure if everybody in this room decides that we are going to pay our MSMEs 7 days from the date of acceptance of their goods or services, and we'll accept their goods or services or reject them as the case may be within 7 days. Just think about it. We are all the time saying MSMEs need to grow, they need to modernize, they need to have economies of scale, they need to provide better quality products, they need to have good equipment, they need to have good labor practices, everything. But the central issue is cash flow. And and they'll be happy to give you a discount. In fact, they'll give you such an attractive discount, it will help your bottom line become better. Because they are borrowing, unfortunately, at rates which are much higher than yours. MSMEs will gladly give you a very, very good prepayment or advance payment discount. But just imagine if just this room was to start. You're smiling, I could ask ACMA to become the leader on that. But honestly, think of the huge impact it could have on the MSME sector. If they were flush with cash flow, if they didn't have to worry in terms of their ability to get materials and pay wages on time and modernize their plants, expand their production capabilities and size, it can have a transformational impact on MSMEs. And therefore, I've often said, ultimately, it will have to be an industry-government partnership. We can't run on government making everything mandatory. And if government tries to say you pay in 45 days by law, then you find people troubling their MSME suppliers or making them deregister from the Udyam portal. It's very hurtful. Therefore, I think it'll have to be a voluntary effort on the part of industry. But I'm sure if we all decide that we're going to scale up, we're going to focus on quality, we're going to be design champions going forward, which would in a way mean more innovation in India. We're going to have speed in our growth story. We're going to focus on sustainability. India will clearly get the edge that we are all yearning for, that we are all assembled here to discuss. And in that spirit of competitiveness, I think if we all also support our own domestic manufacturers to the extent possible, to the extent fair and reasonable, and to the extent necessary for our own safety in the long run. The Swadeshi spirit, which is not something new. We're talking right from Lokmanya Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, all talking of Swadeshi. If we can imbibe that vocal for local spirit, if that Atmanirbhar Bharat story becomes our collective journey, then there's only one outcome. There's only one goal that I can see before my eyes, and that is Viksit Bharat 2047. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much. Firstly, I must thank you. I know it's always during Parliament days, it's always very busy for you. So thank you so much for coming and squeezing this time out of your busy schedule. I know I also must thank you for always encouraging industry. And you encourage industry by having an open door policy in any engagement that you do with for any of the trade agreements or anything else. You've always had a very detailed interaction with industry, so I must thank you for your encouragement. At CII, we are constantly sharing a lot of reports, thought papers with various groups now that have been set up in the government who are looking at various aspects of reform. So I think we are constantly sharing that, and we will continue to do that. And finally, I would say that you're right to point out that in the last 6 to 8 months, last many years, but particularly in the last 6 to 8 months, the government has been on an overdrive on reforms, and some very landmark reforms, whether it was GST, whether it was land reforms, some of the labor reforms, some of the other things. And you've been consistent in reminding us that in the last 30 years, 40 years, all economies that have been very successful in manufacturing and global economies that have been very successful, domestic industry has supported each other. It's not only the reforms, but it's domestic industry supporting each other and having a sense of being of Swadeshi. So thank you very much. Thank you once again for coming. And we will follow up on some of the things that you've mentioned. So with that, we'll conclude this session. Thank you very much for patiently listening through this. Thank you.